Rev up your engines!
The Chevrolet bringing back the Blazer, what do you think of that? I didn't think much of the last ones they made. They were really junky. I had customers with them. They fell apart. The transmissions went out. The AC went out. The electronics went out. They weren't very well built vehicles. So I would have no promise for them coming out with a, in quotes, new one. GM quality control and products aren't that great anymore. I certainly wouldn't waste my money on them. And if you're thinking about getting one, wait till they're 3 or 4 years old and see how they held out, because I wouldn't trust anything new that anyone makes, and especially not General Motors. Autumn Paul Joe says, Scotty, what's the worst mod you ever saw on a customer's car? This guy turned a Chevy Tahoe into a lowrider. So it would scrape the bottom when he went over the speed bumps, and he put those low profile tires. And Houston here, they got a lot of potholes on the roads. Lots of potholes. He kept wiping out the tires and the rims because they were low profile. And I told him, I said, look, you got this heavy vehicle low to the ground with these low profile tires. And of course, they were those giant ones. I don't remember how many 20-something inch rims they were. They cost a fortune. And they kept all breaking on them. The only reason that he didn't care was because he didn't even own the rims. He was those rent to own. Well, when you do the rent to own rims, you got to pay for insurance. So he kept getting them for free because he paid for the insurance. Every time it broke, he took it back to the tire place and they put a new one on free. So he was paying a ton for them anyways, but he kept getting new ones, didn't care. But every time I'd work on that thing and drive it around, when you hit a bump, I felt like the fillings on my teeth were going to fall out. It rode like such crap. Jordan Charles Roots. Scotty, can too tight of a timing belt cause your engine to make whining noises and drive weird? Well, of course it can. If you found out you had a timing belt job done, you got it back and it starts whining and driving weird, take it back. I mean, if it's too tight, it can make the bearings wear out. It'll start whining, and then, of course, the bearings will break faster. And if it's an interference engine, it'll destroy your engine. And if it is too tight, he could have gotten it so tight that when he tightened it, then it moved the sprocket, maybe one tooth off is enough to make a car run weird. If that all happened after you had a timing belt done, definitely take it in. Now, they can't make themselves too tight by themselves. So if you didn't even have the engine touched and it started doing that, who knows? It could be just the fan belt and you got a bearing going in the alternator or something. But if work was done on it, take it back immediately to whoever did it. The real 69, I got an 01 Hyundai Santa Fe. My front rim's always getting black dirt. What's the cause? Well, it's not black dirt. It's brake pad dust. Cheap brake pads do that. They wear out faster, and then the dust gets on the rim. Take off the brake pads, throw them away, and put on Akebono pads, A-K-E-B-O-N-O. I put those on. They don't make any noise. They don't leave dust all over the place. All of them leave a little bit of dust here and there. You got to clean them every once in a while. It's a dirty world out there. But you're getting brake pad dust from crappy brake pads that are just too cheaply made, and they're shedding the material too fast. That's the problem with yours. So try some Akebono brake pads. Brandon R says, what's your opinion on Saturn cars? We know originally it was an interesting idea. GM branched off. Strangely enough, one of my old customers was the guy who was the head of the Saturn advertising stuff. He was in Houston, then he moved to San Francisco, and he set all that up. And he drove BMW, so on that, you know. And they were okay cars in the beginning, but then GM gets involved in a lot of stuff, and then they stopped making them because in the end, their quality control was crap. People saw it was. They weren't buying the cars anymore, and that was the end of that. But if you bought an older one with a standard transmission, some of them were still running around pretty good. But they went into the electronic controlled automatic transmissions later that were garbage, and I tell the customer, you know, junk the car when the tranny went out. And they said, why? I said, because it's going to cost you $3,500 to $4,500 to fix that computer tranny, and I'm not making this up if you want it fixed right. And I'd say your car's only worth $1,000. Why would you put it in it? So they junked the things. But with the standards, some of them could still run. It was just another General Motors failure. Low punny's end. Hey, people, how reliable is a 1983 Volkswagen Rabbit? I had a friend that bought one of those new. Well, his father bought it for him for a graduation present. He drove the heck out of it and had it for years and years and years and years. Volkswagen made better vehicles back in those days. That was a long time ago. 37 years ago? That's a long time. So if you can get it cheap and it still runs, especially if it's a standard transmission, you want a toy, go right ahead. But if the guy's selling it and says, oh, this has all been restored, blah, 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 and he wants a ton of money, walk away from it, because they're not worth anything. They're not collector's items by any stretch of the imagination. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.